Hello and welcome back. So we want to create the function that we are going to use to get data from Redis. We are only going to have one function, which is just a simple get to get categories from Redis. And the reason why we are going to add those categories is simple. On the client, on the front end, if a user clicks on a particular gig, okay, we want to save that gigs category. So whatever the category of that particular gig belongs to, we are going to get that category name and then save it to Redis. Okay, and then we can use that gig or that category name to fetch data based on the category and then display it on the front end. So for example, if I go to our dev tool, let's say for example the user on the front end clicks on this particular gig and the gig category name or value is music and audio, as you can see right here. Now we are going to save this value in Redis, okay? And then on the front page, if the user goes back to the home page, we are going to fetch maybe 5 documents or 5 gigs from Elasticsearch that has this same category. Okay, that is just what we want to do. So if the user, but every time the user goes to a different category, we'll always be updating the categories value and the Redis cache. Okay, so I don't want to store, or we are not going to store the categories as a list. We are just going to set it as a value. Okay, so anytime the user clicks on a category, let's say music and audio, and then they go back to the index page, we are going to use this category value to fetch gigs, maybe 5 gigs or 10 gigs that matches this category. And then if the user clicks on a different gig, let's see if we can return. If the user clicks on a different gig, let's say another gig with category writing and translation, then we are going to replace the previous one in the Redis cache with this new value. Okay, so the new value is going to be writing and translation. And then if the user goes back to the home page, we get gigs with this particular category. And then if the user clicks another data, that is how we are going to perform the queries. Okay, and that is how we are going to use it. Now the method that we add the actual categories to Redis, we are not adding it in the gig service. We are going to add it in our API gateway. Okay, from our API gateway, we are going to add the methods that will save the categories to Redis, and some other methods that will add some other data to Redis. We are going to do it in the API gateway service. So I decided to do it right there instead of doing it in any other service. Okay, in the gig service, let's create a file. I'll call this gig.cache.ts. Okay, for this we are only going to be using one simple method, okay, which is going to be the client get. Let me create my logger. Okay, so create the logger, and then here let's see if we add the necessary imports. This is wrong. Okay, so config should come from our own configuration, and then this will be gig cache. Okay, so the method I want to create is going to be a very simple method. Okay, get user selected gig category. Okay, so every gig that the user clicks, we are going to save the category of that gig to Redis. Okay, so we pass in the key. It's going to be of type string, and promise, we want to return promise of type string. Okay, so the value each user will have, just for the categories, each user will have one category at a time, and that category is going to be a string. Okay, and here let me export this. Okay, so now what I want to do is try catch log.log if there's an error, so error, and then here I'll say gig service gig cache, and the method name is this, and then I'll pass in the error object. Okay, and then here what I want to do simply is first we check if there is if the client connection is open. So I'll say if it is false, that means there is no connection, then we try to connect again. So I'll say if no client, then we import client dot is open. Okay, so this is open property, is a boolean. So if it is false, that means we don't have any connection. Then let us create the connection, client dot connect. Okay, so with redis gig slash I think it's redis. With redis, you have to create the connection wherever you need it. In the previous version, you just need to create the connection once, but here you check if the connection is open. If it's not open, then create the connection. And then here what we want to do is return the string value. Okay, string equal to await, and then we use client dot get, and then we pass in the key name. Okay, so don't worry, once we add the data, you will understand properly what this get is. We are going to be saving the category name as a string. Okay, and then we are going to return, we are using this get method to get the string that we saved, and then we just return response. Okay, and then we return the response right here. Okay, now I'm still getting this error, probably because here we need to maybe return a value. Okay, so maybe I can just return empty string. Okay, here I can return an empty string. Okay, so I have this error now. So this method simply will just be used to fetch the category. Like I said, the method to add the categories to Redis cache, we are going to add it from our API gateway service. Okay, we add it from our API gateway service, and then to get the data, any data we will likely add to our Redis cache will be done from the API gateway service, and the other services will just connect to that Redis instance and then get the data that they want.